Know Thyself is dedicated to the exploration of the most rewarding task an individual can ever embark on, the journey to find oneself. This is the Know Thyself podcast. Yeah, I like this idea way better. So, welcome to the Know Thyself podcast. I'm here with Daniel.
Well, hello.
And I am Eduardo, and it's good to see you once again after the many attempts of getting together and starting the year off. And what better day than to today, after we've had so many discussions prior to this, to how we're going to launch not only the new episode and the new season and everything that's coming up, but also what we've been up to and where we've been. And so Daniel and I, for those listening right now, we had even a couple of sessions where we started recording, and there's just so much to unfold and so much of what's happened. I think the last time we did an episode was a few months back, and so much has happened.
It was a spooky episode, right? Was that the last one? It was the spooky
That
one.
was it.
And that could have gone so much deeper too. And we'll talk about that. There was a component, but that was fun. But even when we were done with it, it was just oh no, man, we could go deeper than that. But do continue, my man. It's so great to hear your voice.
Thanks, man. You too. I like that you clarify that, because it still sort of ties into all the episodes prior to this and what's going to come after on how we're trying to structure these episodes. So for you, the listener, you can not only join us on these discussions and be privy to how we communicate with one another about such topics, but also taking such dense information and condensing it to where it's not only tangible, but we're also not missing a lot of things and going on our own tangents and just getting straight to the point in a way. And, with all those different ideas floating around, we've been trying to use our time wisely to give ourselves space, give each other space, but still, Daniel and I have been talking nonstop. You were mentioning that before we recorded, how we never stopped talking. We just weren't recording, and preparing for these recordings became sort of this process we had to go through. And here we are now.
Yeah. So funny. And it's so funny too, because we were still preparing for these. We were still having conversations. They just weren't getting recorded. And that was a really fascinating thing, because from the outside looking in, if I Wikipedia'd, if I did some Google typing with my fingers and I looked up what we were doing, it would come up as a hiatus. But there was no hiatus between us, which was the most unique thing about it, because our relationship only got stronger. And I think there was a lot of conversations of hey, you guys, you've grown up together. You've gone through the fire together. This is your alchemical brother. And it's so amazing that you have these conversations, but you're not just breaking bread between the two of you anymore. You're not connecting on this personal level of being such a support for each other. And we were also both going through an alchemical process. And it was such a unique alchemical process that it didn't really make sense until it was done. Just like it always does. It always makes more sense when it's complete. That's how you know something's coming to the end, when you can start to understand it and see the conception of it. And, and that was what was so tough, because all we did was want to have these esoteric conversations with the community. But there was this pulling within, and it was one of those things this wasn't planned at all. This kind of radio silence that was kind of presented, but so necessary, not only for ourselves, but I think also for the community, because it gave us time to instill, reflect, find new resources, find corresponding information, opened up new data points, all of these things. It's a great expansion time of even the paradigm for all of us, and myself included. A lot of new resources, even ancient things that I didn't even know I haven't uncovered. This whole year was such an intake of information. And that what was so fascinating. It was just a lot of new data presented to me. And it didn't do anything to my old understandings. If anything, it strengthened them. But you peel the onion back of what this reality is, the stinkier does get stinkier. The falsehood gets more seen, the wickedness within. And so you have to kind of go through these floods, right? Where you wash away what's impure about yourself. But what remains and like what keeps you afloat and holds up the sky is the principles. And those were what we discussed in the first 3 years was the principles, the foundations of the esoteric and the occult, because the principles remain after a flood. It's like what the big story of the pyramid was. The pyramid was built before the flood to withstand the flood and to carry on information that needed to. And why it was able to do it was because it was a foundation, and it mastered foundation and even its measurements. It was mastery and foundation. Foundations are the strength, and that's what we build on. And it allows us to go deeper down the rabbit hole. And it was so fascinating. I didn't even know about some of the things I needed to explore. I had no need to like even think I wanted to even look into what's the true history of the world and things like that. But the universe had a different plan, you know, and it was so fascinating because we started this season that's just now picking up pretty much again, because it's still kind of the same season. There was just this space in between. And the whole time I was like, why are we not producing like, and why was there so much, like, at least for myself, you know, and I know, and I can't wait to give the floor for your exciting news, because yours is it's the most beautiful thing in the world. But within myself, it was very fascinating at the very end when I was trying to make sense of everything. It was like this realization of like, you wanted to teach application. So I made you apply. The whole year was about application, and it was about application at a whole new level, because it's like, no, you've been trying to communicate application these last couple years, but that was the compounding of that information. You already instilled that information. That was already taken in and expanded your paradigm of what this reality is. You are already living by those, but there's deeper. It's endless. The story keeps going, going, going. So you're constantly going to have these death and rebirths where parts of you need to be destroyed. But what remains, again, are those principles, and they don't change. You know, like you go through a death and rebirth, vibration doesn't change. Frequency doesn't change. Your relationship with them changes. It gets deeper. You understand them more and you live by them more, but they don't change as a core understanding. And that's what was so fascinating, but it made so much sense. It was like, you wanted to teach application. So I brought application to the plate, because like, if you don't walk through the coals, how are you going to even give anybody any kind of, not even saying you're here to guide, but how are you even going to give proper conversation so that could spear that into somebody's consciousness? And so again, it was a fascinating process, you know, going inside, and that's how alchemy works. It was like, hey, you know, this is the download. Yeah. And now the data has been presented for the next couple of years of further conversations. And I'm so excited about that. But I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
You just got me so excited. I was just.
Oh, well, get excited, because I'm about to start playing the marching band for you. We got a trombone, a little snare guy, even that little dancing dude with the stick. Because like the biggest alchemical process, mine was only just a shadow of like what you went through, and like watching you go through it and still being able to go through it. And before you speak, one of the reasons why I was like, hey, we should redo this episode is because you tried to take the attention of tying your next news into maybe why some of the episodes were never done in this past, but you were always here and you were always ready to go. And that was what was the most amazing thing through this process about like the beautiful news that you're about to share. My man, you were always ready to go. It didn't matter. And that's on top of this like career change, you know, all of the things, which is the home side, all of it. And that's not even talking about the big news. So I'm being a little chatty Danny. So I'm gonna pass the talking stick over to you,
Thanks,
and then
man.
we'll continue this conversation.
Well, first, I love Chatty Danny. You know, as any good friend that you have, or any of you have the fortune of having, like, it's always nice to hear everything that was going on in your life and what is currently going on in your life. And so I don't mind you chatting up anything. You just always spark something in me when you say that I'm ready. It's easier for me to be prepared, because if you start going off in one direction and I was curious about, it doesn't matter what I'd be reading in that moment, or what I've been reading in that moment rather, you'll find a way to sort of entertain what my tangent about it might be. And so that's why I always feel ready and inspired. You were just talking about the application, and it was such a paradigm, but it's just so appropriate. But when the application conversations begun, and when we were trying to see what direction we were going to take it with that in mind, we were being called into the application. And like, I remember in, the Hermeticists, they're constantly talking about that evolution from lead to gold. And so when we do the application and we let that happen, you have to go back to even the first episodes when we talked about the 7 Hermetic principles or the stages of alchemy. At some point you're going to be called into these principles, right? So like you talked about vibration and how nothing rests and everything is always in a constant. But at one point you get called into it, just like everybody else, where you have to be fully prepared and aware of what's happening in that moment. And it occupies most of your time, your heart, and your intention. And it shouldn't come as a surprise, but it still does, because, we're raised to believe like there's deadlines and there's people we don't want to let down, and there's things that we need to conquer and divide for tomorrow. And these are just such rapid ways of moving through this construct. And this construct that we have created is living within a vibrating and pulsating energy always around us. And when things are occurring within that we cannot see, in my opinion, or the way I see it, and you don't tap into the vibration, it keeps vibrating with or without you. So if you don't adjust the rhythm to it, if you don't understand like the cause and the effect of it, you end up, creating just such different ripples that aren't going to benefit you and those around you. And so it was really weird, but we always gave each other the space. Like, who would we be as friends? Or who would we be? We'd just be hypocrites if we as friends can't give each other space or can't give each other the time to like come back and have an honest conversation. And we never like butchered this. We never went in it or unauthentically. We never went in it just for the sake of having an episode out. And so we want everybody to know that as well. But the thing that you're talking about, which is also part of the
burst,
application,
buddy. We're about to burst over here.
The thing that has just been so great in all this is that you've always been consciously aware that I was going to be having my first child, and it's been mind-blowing. And with everything happening in terms of like just relationships with individuals, relationships with yourself, of course, significant other, and so many more people that influence your life, that vibrational pattern is not only already created from the years of being in this body for on earth, but there's also habits that follow within those patterns. There's also a style in which you move through this sort of pulsating energy I'm talking about. And when your newborn comes, which these principles need to be really heavily considered fast, because he doesn't understand the context of where you're coming from, or what you may have an opinion on or not, or what your good mannered soul thinks, you should do in this situation that's being presented to you. His is very much primitive and very,
a baby.
But also so powerful, because it's tapping into you so quickly to be like, I'm calling upon you to go deep within you to reciprocate something that you have and you always will have, but you need to know how to tap into it. And I need you to tap into it because it'll benefit both of us. And it's a constant, test for anybody out there who's a parent, you know what I'm saying? So it's been great. And Daniel, he's been an amazing friend through all of this. And by the way, everything's great. My son's great. My wife is great. Everybody's good. And the space that was needed was not just a blessing, but also something I think, for me, I can't speak for you, Daniel, you kind of take for granted, instead of like, it's kind of like being upset because you have an endless onset of layovers at an airport for anyone who has the privilege of traveling like that. And, you can be upset and always be looking to the next flight that may take you to your destination, or you make the best out of the time of a situation that's sort of out of your control at an airport. And it's not fun to be in an airport, of course, but being patient with the time that you have and sort of redirecting your purpose within that time can be very beneficial once you get on that plane. And for me, like the waiting game was just making sure that everything was going to go well with decisions I've made, from either my partner to my career to my newborn son. You know, you want to make the best choices. And I think one of those choices, which is such a weird choice, but it's part of, we were talking about application, but part of application is inaction, right? We always think of action in terms of application, but inaction is also deciding on something. And we did that multiple times when we'd sit in this chair to start the episode. It was never in any kind of, place of animosity or impatience. It was just more like, hey, are you feeling this? Or am I feeling this? And then we'd get off and we'd talk about it and we'd still connect on it. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the space you gave me. And I hope I was able to reciprocate, just as, with everything going on in both our lives. But we would just be a bunch of doo-doo hypocrites with all these principles that, are right behind every episode we talk about if we don't really use them to better ourselves and that vibrating pattern around us,
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And we're always exploring our own personal relationships with these principles, as well as we're always exploring our own personal relationship with consciousness. And I think that was a huge part about it was creating a deeper relationship with consciousness in that universal life force that we speak about. But it's like, do you go through these processes, and I love that you brought up the aspect of airport, because it's right. When you're on standby at a terminal, you're kind of waiting for things that are out of your control, and how we operate within this reality. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Sometimes we have to trust the process, and sometimes stuff isn't moving quite like we want it to, but we can force it and cause a scene, get the nice flight attendant to be mad at us because we yell and all of these things, and start to get upset about the process in which we're not controlling. Instead, if we really trust the process like we did, you're like, okay, I'm sharpening my axe right now. There's nothing I can do with my axe. There's no movement. I don't have to cut anything right now. I'm not creating anything new, but I know it's coming. I know that because I trust in the universal life force and I have a relationship with it, I know it's going to open the door for me to get out of this transition, which is this terminal, and transition terminal. We also just went through a very unique transit, just like when a planet goes into a different sign, transit, terminal, transition. And you have to trust the process of transitions. But you don't just sit there and sit on your hands and get mad. You prepare yourself for what you feel is going to be presented to you when you open the door. And if you're confused on what that is, it's probably what you're curious about. It's where your attention wants to take you. And it's what you would spend your free time doing. That's how you sharpen your axe. So when the universe opens the door and it's like, cut, you got all the energy, you got all the confidence, the strength, knife is cut, and it's clean. No damage done. No extraterrestrial damage done to the environment. It's just a clean cut. Maybe we had to cut a pattern. Maybe we had to cut a new path for ourselves. It doesn't matter. We just trust the process. So as we're going through it, the episodes weren't coming. The recordings weren't happening, but it didn't stop us from building Know Thyself. It just took me deeper into my studies. It took me deeper into my meditations, contemplations, and looking deeper at what I'm talking about with application. And that really it was a unique form of application, and it was an application of simplicity. And that was something that came out of everything, and it always comes out of everything when you're done, is just how simple it all is. It was so simple at the end after going through this whole process and trying to figure out why there's a block in communication, which was always the thing that came more natural to me. I can't hit a baseball. Never could. That was never going to happen. Couldn't figure that out. Blown away that people that can't do it. I'm always just what? That's magic to me. Wasn't great with the hands construction. it was always speaking, conversations, communicating, and learning. It was like, that was what I like to do. And so it was fascinating when even the thing that came naturally to you wasn't happening, but I didn't distrust the situation. I trusted the process. You know, I continued to work, and I saw the doors that it was opening, and it was opening a lot of one-on-one working through the natal charts and the alchemical counseling. And I realized, like, oh, it went from the collective conversation to the personal. And why it took me there was because I had an individual, a sovereign individual that's standing in front of me, that's strong enough, that's like such an amazing person to connect to, that's talking to me about what is working for them and what is not working for me. It was all data collection. It was literally tangible results being presented in the physical reality about the question I was encountering. But rather than seeing the data, I'm trying to figure out why I can't communicate. It's just like, just chill, just get it, just collect it. And also, what about all these things that you've been learning? What about the calendar systems? What about the history? What about the pre-flood world and all these things you've been going into? Do you see that I'm like expanding your paradigm? Do you see that like you need to see this from more vantage points, and you need to destroy your paradigm and show how you do it, so then you can help other people go through that process and encourage it? It's like, oh, it all makes so much sense because it's always simpler at the end. And it is so simple. You know, this whole year of meditation just brings you to the component of like, the true God is simple, and it is all so simple. Spirituality truly is just remembering more and forgetting less. Remembering more that I'm an immortal soul, animating an avatar, traveling through the valley of the shadow of death. I'm not from here. We're animating an avatar that's experiencing this construct, right? I remember that more and I forget that less. Now it's super easy, breaking bread together, you know, playing with the baby, high-fiving people and being like, oh yeah, we're all universally connected. I'm a universal soul. But what happens when we like check into the traffic and all of a sudden we're stuck in traffic? What happens when a pressure at work happens? What happens when I'm like panicking because I realize it's the end of the month and I have to pay the rent? You forget that you're an immortal soul and that you have the power of the infinite. And like, it's literally like you are it experiencing it. And you start to think about scarcity again. You start to tap into fear. You lose trust in the universal life force. And again, it's so simple. You can't lose trust, because if you have no trust in a relationship, there is no relationship. So now this universal power that's going to be able to help you, it helped you realize it was the end of the month, is also going to help you figure out how you're going to get that energy to come in. But it's not going to do that if you distrust it, because it's not going to work that way, because it has to present to you what you see and what you think about. If you distrust it, it's going to present to you with it being inadequate, because the seeker gets what it seeks in the construct. And it's when you tap into that infinite, you can actually use the infinite. But if you don't have a relationship with creation, you don't have a relationship. Like you're not in the relationship with creating your reality in the way that a sovereign individual, it's their God-given birthright to do. You know, yeah, we're a star, but we're not a fixed star in the sky. We're a walking, dazzling star. We choose our own destiny. We collapse our own timelines. You know, that's the difference between the sheep and the shepherd. The shepherd is creating its own. It's not feeding into the observer, you know, carnival matrix that sucks your attention in by magnetism and fear, scarcity. Oh, your body's not strong enough. You need all this medicine. Well, you're losing trust with your body by taking the medicine, because you're deconsenting from that universal life force, which is the ultimate intelligence of your body. And you're, through your actions, showing the universe that you don't trust the body. You trust this stock market icon, this product, you know, this prescription, this script. You trust this. You don't trust the universal life force and the universal laws. You trust your like limited government. That's what you're consenting your energy to. Well, you're showing no trust to the universal life force. It can't connect to you because you're stuck in this other lower pattern. It's so simple. It's like you just always need to remember that you are it experiencing it. And then you can actually tap into the infinite because it's within you. And you're not presenting yourself as some limited, scarce, fear-driven individual. And that's why there's so much fear. And that's why they're always feeding that to push you into that, because the other choice is breaking free. It's collapsing, it's actually like getting out and getting back through the process. And so, it's so funny because it's just remembering more and forgetting less. What does a baby bring to you? Remembering, constant remembering, because it's not just I am baby. It's like I am baby. And then it says all this baby things that it does, but it's life getting your attention. But again, what does that life need from you? It's so simple. It's love. The true God is simple. It's love. Yeah. You want to know who the God of the tree of death is, the demiurge? It's complexity. You can look at like a gematria breakdown of an event. Like if you ever go on like the website, I don't know if you and I have ever messed on the Gematrinator. Amazing website. Definitely check it out. Any word you want to put in there, it'll give you the gematria, the breakdown of the coded word, like the numerical value of it. You could use your name. You could look at dates. Really fascinating thing. And they can break down events that happen in all over the world. And they break it down into numbers in a way that's just like beyond belief, the details and how everything plays into itself. Well, the demiurge is deception. The king of this world, the king of the tree of death, is the program that's running that is this fear system. Within the construct, there's two programs running. It's the tree of life and the tree of death. And the simple, how to tell them apart, is the true God is simple. It's so simple. It's love. Where the other one is these complex like equations and all these things add up. It's these complex rituals at these award shows. It's these events, these events that happen with these weird numbers. It's so complex. And they're like, oh, it's because the devil is not in the details. The devil is details. God is wholeness. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. God is simple. God is love, truth, and wisdom. Our connection to God comes through our imagination, our intuition, and our empathy. This is what we're connecting here. Everything else is this reverse program that's running, and we're seeing its operation. We've seen its operation forever. We don't fear its operation because it's got nothing connected to us, because we absolutely don't consent to it. We only consent to that universal life force. We consent to the true, simple God. The God of Genesis in the first couple chapters that says just go and replenish the earth. Not the God of Exodus or later chapters where he's like killing people who don't believe in him, justifying that killing babies. We ain't talking about the same God here. It's the old story of the Gnostics. And this is a huge thing that we'll discuss further. But at the end of the day, even going deeper into this aspect of like saving the father from the belly of the beast, it's all so simple. It's the true God is simple. Spirituality is simple. It's remembering more and forgetting less. When it comes to the work you need to do, it's right in front of your face. It's your nose. Like literally it's like your nose. And we spoke about it with Pinocchio. You can't see your nose, even though it's in your vision, unless you close one eye. Everything you need to do, everything that's special about you is right in front of your face. It's like right there. And it's just these moments that it's all over. We see it and we're like, oh my gosh, that's what it was. It was there the whole time. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the component here. And this is why you can see even like how you treat other people is how you treat yourself. And that's like a way when people are like, I just don't know how to give myself self-care. I don't know how to take care of myself. It's like, do you take care of other people? Yeah, all the time. Always taking care of my grandparents, my kids. Okay, what do you do for them? Like, well, I feed them. I make sure that their clothes are clean. I make sure that they're healthy. It's just like, oh, you just do the same thing for yourself. But like, if you cook them food, you have to cook food for yourself. Right. Because like, you can't just wrap something up in a tortilla and slam it in your face, Daniel, because your oversoul's watching. And it's just like, why is it that you will take time to make food for anybody else when they come over, do all the dishes and be so happy, but you have to like not make a plate for yourself? It's like your higher self is looking at the situation and it's like, why is it not returning in the same way? You know, it's like these simple things that come up at these moments, and something like the lessons of a child is what reminds us of this, because it's so simple. It's complex, right? But that's more with like how you interact with the world while raising a baby. Like that's the only thing that's really complex about it, is you still having a career, you having to pay, like, you know, your bills and all of these things. That's what's interesting. That's where the marathon is, you know, because like you said, you don't mind waking up if he's quiet. You're not going to let him cry, but it's the pressure of like the Matrix that makes it difficult. No, God's simple, you know, and that's the thing.
It was that simple.
They didn't invent the babies. They invented the work week. You know what I mean? Like it's so interesting.
Everything you're saying, dude. I mean, if I may interrupt, I just was thinking, we still haven't done an episode on the Rosicrucians, but in my own readings, when I was doing some investigation, just filling my curiosity, if you will, on just the Rosicrucians, one of the things I did like about what I was reading is the idea of reaching that inner light that you were talking about, and like with knowledge and like finding a way to liberate ourselves. You said something a few minutes back about, you know, what's like how we want to help others, but we don't help ourselves. And maybe when it is time to help ourselves, we go deep and look for this kind of knowledge. I mean, I know that this is a little side tangent in this regard, but we've had a lot of messages from listeners, and the main thing that they always want to say is they want to thank us. We thank you right back, and we're glad you're thankful. That
was so fast.
But what they're thanking us for is that they were just they were just in a position where they were at a place put against the wall to be curious, and then their curiosity found us, and then they found their own path into what could liberate them or make them tap into that light. And so having a form of refilling that cup, that inner cup, not the exterior, you know, cup of just materialism and things that, you know, we definitely need in order to operate in this existence, but the inner cup being full, everything else falls into place in the exterior, and you forget that all the time because things are going to rattle that pattern for you. That vibration, I know it's not ill-intended. The vibration is happening at all times, but you know, if something happens that's strong enough to rattle your foundation, you just have to like pretty much accept the fact that you can't take everything with you in that moment, just the things that are the most important, and then move on and start over again. And if you can make peace with that, which is what I'm doing, then everything else just is so trivial. But it is happening to you. You were talking about the Matrix. It's like, if I could just stay at home all day long with the baby, I'll just tap into my inner light faster than, you know, I even know what to do with, you know, because being with a child, being with the ones you love, you know, you feel that inner love and you feel that inner light, and it's operating and it's generating at all times. But he needs to depend on me. And the way it operates in this construct is I have to be doing things in order to receive other things, in order to keep him from being, or not necessarily not being pure, but always staying pure is what I mean. So you want to protect and you want to, you know, you want to serve, and you want to just live out the rest of your life serving them. But there's nothing great about that if you're just neglecting yourself and just like on autopilot, you know? And so when you say I'm on and I'm ready to do these episodes too, like this is just nourishment for me, because I get to not only have a conversation with you, but also I get to be wide open to many listeners that I don't know what they're going to think about what is going on in my life or your life. But I just want them to know that they're not alone, because it makes me feel less lonely if I'm going through these sort of moments where you're, you know, sort of not in a like a pressure chamber, but you're sort of wanting to know what's my exit. And the exit is always just accepting the reality and then moving into the most peaceful way, if you can, of starting over again. Like I said, like if something is just not meant for you or doesn't serve you, it's really hard to let it go. I think it's in our instincts to like keep a tight grip and not let go. And even in the last 6-7 months when we weren't doing episodes, I found so much peace in these episodes and doing the episodes with you. But at that time I was needed somewhere else, and you were needed somewhere else, and we needed to answer the call of so many things in our life. And they're just basic things. They're not all so monumental with like having a child. But even with you, I know there was different things that were happening that were just as important though, because your happiness is important to me. You know what I mean? And those who are around me, I want them to be happy. So again, who would I be if I wasn't going to be your friend and give you space for whatever you need in terms of adjustment? And I don't expect the same from you, but secretly I kind of, I'm like, hey, he's got my back, like, and you've never disappointed in the last 20 plus years of our friendship, and through all different changes. And so, yeah, I'm just glad we were able to finally get that all out and just sort of talk about it for all those listeners. And again, I don't even mean to go off from the Rosicrucians to here, but there's so much that we've talked about behind the walls, and behind a recording mic that I know we want to address and we want to get to. So
sure.
I don't
know. Yeah. And
yeah.
again, like everything that I just like blurted out on the microphone could be broken down and we can talk about all of that stuff for like hours and hours. Like it was just kind of like, oh, this is where it's been the last 10 months. And it's funny because every time people have asked me, because like in charts, people are like, hey, I'm an avid listener and I haven't noticed. Every time I explain where I've been, I always be like, I sound crazy. Like, I'm like, I just start explaining it more. And although I sound crazy in my explanation today of it, I feel like it was the least craziest I've sound. So I think this is actually going to make recording, which is really exciting. We're going to kind of publish something. And it's only going to there's so much to explore. And yeah, man, something that I've been looking a lot into is like calendars and time and how time works and the unification of the calendars and things like that. And you brought up the Rosicrucians. Well, the Rosicrucians always appear on a timeline and they publish a bunch of work and they talk about like all this like big group organization that's going to happen and then it goes under and they don't know if it like really goes under or do they actually get the initiates that they want and they just don't make it a public thing. But either way, that is something that is going to happen around like 2040 if the timeline continues, as well as some other big stuff around that time period.
I can't wait to talk more about it. Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, no. And so
I wasn't going to say anything important.
Oh, nor was I. And so in the, but yeah, man, the Rosicrucians are fascinating, especially if you're looking at alchemy. Max Hendel wrote a lot for them. There's their publications are fantastic. So for listeners, if you're looking for more data, great resource. And then, man, one of the things that came up this last year that just absolutely blew my mind was the Kolbrin Bible. Have I spoken to you about this and how much it just like opened up a can of worms for me?
No.
Super interesting, man. Just as old as the Old Testament. It's the Celtic Bible. It's about 2,800 years old, I want to say, but it could be.
Oh, yeah, you did mention that too.
Did I mention? Yeah. No religion connected to it. So obviously it doesn't have like the Pope Incorporated pushing it, with his gold bars and stuff of like, listen, read my book. Yeah. It's like not very pushed by your organization. So not a lot of people know about it. Super amazing resource. Anybody, I would definitely say that has been one of the most fascinating things. And it's very similar. It's got no connection to Christianity. But, again, the stories from the Bible all come back from like the deepest of them are going to be Sumerian. That's a reprint. It's a reorganization. Mm-hmm. All ancient text. Sumerian is where we're going to get like the base of the deepest, latest information we know, but amazing resource with the Kolbrin Bible. Some other really great resources. A really great one as well as Archaics on YouTube, Jason Bashir's fascinating work, man. Super interesting. He really looks at calendars and has opened up a lot in my mind. And again, don't agree and see similar on everything, but his data is unreal. Like his bibliography, his like all of what he studied. He spent time, I think, in prison. So he like just studied all day long. But really fascinating because studying all of his work, a lot of his conclusions are things I've read in Rudolf Steiner and things I've read in the Brotherhood of Light and stuff. And he hasn't read these. Like some of these things he hasn't read. So it's really cool seeing even like non-alchemy researchers coming to really alchemical conclusions. Yes. Again, it just fortifies everything. It fortifies everything. And it's a beautiful thing. So Colburn Bible, Archaics, two great resources for everybody in the community. And we're going to be, connecting with a lot more resources. I think that's going to be a really big thing, is like, let's really help like pull together just like a legit list of like common individuals, that are just free thinkers. We don't all have to agree on the same thing, but like we can all break bread that this is a spiritual experience. And that's the embarkment point that matters the most.
Exactly. Well said, man. Well said. And that's exactly what I want to, conclude my thoughts with on that, is bringing people that come to the same conclusion as, the greats before us and the ones that are currently amongst us, is, again, refortifying the thought that we're all living in through this vibrating and pulsating energy that is feeding us information. And the information, I believe, is circling around and around. And the more of us that can touch the information and then move into application, I think the better world we'll see, but also the better world we'll see from within. And we'll recognize people who also feel that way, that there's not just one way, but the way has its rules, and it has its forms of taking us on these journeys of self-exploring, and, the lows bring you closer to places you really hadn't taken a look at. And then they provide you the highs thereafter. And everyone you talk to is, just trying to find a good place in between and, stay in a flow, or a flow state rather. And so that's kind of what I hope for the next series, because I'm in that right now. It's like that surrendering of the last 8 months, even 9 months, and all things in my life has, brought a new, not just necessarily lens to look through, but also just a fresh pair of eyes, if you will. So yeah, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, man, it's amazing. It's amazing. And in my vision of the future, I see you doing a wheelie on the water. Like, that's how bad it's like so cool. Like, people are like, I didn't even know wheelies could do that. Welcome to the future. And we'll talk about that. We're going to have a really, we'll turn this over because we're going to have a conversation on that transit. We're going to go really deep on that Pluto moving into Aquarius transit. Really fascinating. It moves right around back into Capricorn when the United States election is going to happen. Couldn't write this in a story if you tried. Your publisher would be like, this story's not believable. And you're like, it's the story. Wow. But like, that's it. And so, but we'll talk about that because that was huge. And we all experienced something on the 20th that can only be described as rad. And that was when Pluto and Aquarius were moving the sun and Pluto were moving at the same time. They transitioned together. Really fascinating. They both moved from Capricorn into Aquarius at the same time. You don't have the sun illuminate a transit of that magnitude very often. And that's a neutral field with the changing of the planets, but it's what you do with that energy. But for the ones that are aware, it means game on. It means like your magic is going to be more, the construct is going to receive your programming more uniquely now. It's going to be more responsive to your programming, but construct is going to be more responsive to your programming. And so if you didn't pick the lessons and you didn't lift the weights and learn the program and learn the principles, and Capricorn is what Capricorn taught, you're not going to know how to use your tools. But for like the cool cats in all of us, it's truly like game on, because it's just like, oh, we're getting our Aquarian energy. Again, it's going to go back into Capricorn a little bit, and then we're going to be full swing ahead. And this will be for the majority of all of us, because we're our spiritual development, and this might be the most important Pluto of our life. In our time frame for sure, because it's like in our 30s, 40s, and our 50s. That's when you like create the most. But for everybody, it's going to be quite the spiritual experience, like it always has been.
Oh, dude, I can't wait to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So that will be the next one. We'll jump into that just because we'll catch up on its recentness, and then we're just gonna ride some dragons and do some ill shit.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Well, I do want to just say thank you to everybody for being so patient while we were going through our own individual journeys, Daniel and I. But remember, we never stopped thinking about you guys and hoping to produce the best episodes we can just by these conversations and experiences happening all at the same time. And with you, we just can't wait to like provide you with examples, but also these lessons that my friend Daniel here always brings up that are just so powerful that I just want to use the application, or I just want to take the information for the application and just, make the better choices from here on out. So thanks again, man.
Hey, man. Thank you. I love you. I love everybody in this community. It's such an honor to be on this journey with each and every one of you. And until next time.
Oh man, I haven't said that in a long
time.
Until next time then.